All right. And I've got a quick agenda that I can share. So a couple of quick updates. Step Division now is a real company as of last Friday. So if we want Step Vision to publish shared visions on the App Store, that is now a viable option. I'm still working on the Apple developer setup. I'm going through the same thing that Mel's talking about with the Dun and Bradstreet approval and the business verification. But the LLC is set up. I got a tax ID, got all the registration stuff, working on bank accounts and credit cards and uh, probably some insurance to go along with it. Um, so not much to say on that yet, but more soon. Oliver, anything to check in with the design team? I know you
Yeah,
were.
just a quick update for everyone. So basically, we got the responses from those that are particularly interested in the UX and UI side of things. So I've been a bit distracted with the deliverable this week, but we've got about seven of them on the list. We've reached out and we're just coordinating a time for our kickoff meeting next week. So Phil Trout's got back, Des has got back, Mo from Meta's got back. So we're on the path, but it's just been a bit delayed. Apologies.
Awesome. So that team will kind of come in handy in this next topic later when we talk about the front end development team. On the interview side, last week we had a pretty good story arc structure review. We did kind of a mock interview, and I haven't had any time to schedule a kind of a follow up with Mel and Ian yet. Turns out founding companies takes a lot of time, as I'm sure Mel can attest. But I feel like we're based on how it went last week. I feel like this is pretty close. We just need to kind of maybe trim some of these questions down a little bit and maybe modify the document to make it clear to the interviewers kind of how to use it. Like you don't have to answer, you don't have to ask every single question. This is more of like a starting point to get people talking. Um, so yeah, not a ton on those yet, but hopefully within the next week or two, we'll we'll kind of finalize that process, which goes in towards a kind of a if we have time topic at the end of the meeting today, talking about the video submission process. I'm hoping to turn that interview thing into kind of a form that we can fill out that includes who interviewed who, date, metadata, you know, website, social media information about the subject, uh, annotate all the clips, upload them, annotate any B-roll and upload those, any other assets they want to include, like images or 3D models, things like that. So I nerd sniped Mike into uh, dreaming up an entire web app for that. And that'll be kind of fun as like a little side project of like we need basically the video team and the interview team to like act as clients to tell us what do you need this to do, and then we can put it in the hands of people. So today the main topic for today, which is why I asked a lot of folks to come, um, the core development of the app. Mike had Mike had volunteered to do team lead for the app development, and after diving into some of the complexity, realized this is more than he can lead by himself. So we need some volunteers and some kind of people to step up and kind of grab each of these categories and figure out how we kind of all work together for this stuff. So let me just run through the categories and I'll stop sharing my screen. We have front end development, so building the app that people use and interact with. The things that Oliver and his team are working on designing, it'll be very much just like kind of implementing the design from them, iterating on changes, things like that. So a probably a launch window, a main window, a way to enter the documentary, a way to enter the library, a way to filter different videos and navigate around, things like that. Also, the some of the stuff that goes along with like switching between windows and immersive spaces, uh, that kind of scene phase type of logic. The next category is the timeline, for lack of a better term. This is the timeline slash video player for the shared visions section of the app, the actual linear story. Mike is taking lead on that. It's a very much a non-trivial part of this, and it's probably the biggest technical component that we could uh, hopefully open source as a standalone thing later to let other people go grab and build projects off of. Then uh, we've got needs for backend development in the app as well as infrastructure, like how are we going to host the video content for the streaming library? How are we going to tie all that to the app? Things like that. And then we've also got a kind of a feasibility or research project to see if we can use Apple hosted background assets, not necessarily for the video streaming content, but I did break the two types of content for the app into these two sections. We've got category A, which are things that either need to be in the app or bundled with the app somehow, um, to the point where we need all of this stuff on the user's device before they hit play on the main documentary. So this would be probably maybe 100, 200 files, short video clips, anywhere from 5 seconds to a minute long, 3D models, photos, any text, things like that. These are the things that we would kind of keyframe into that timeline. And then the other category is longer video files that we could just host on a video hosting platform or an R2 bucket or S3 bucket or something like that. So we're looking for someone to kind of go down the rabbit hole of Apple hosted background assets and see if this is going to be something we could use for this category A of data. Um, we hope so, but none of us have used it. And the few folks in the Step into Vision community who have used it have said, hey, it's pretty great, but it takes a lot of work to get right. And uh, it's got not bugs, but it's got complexity, shall we say. So that's the intro. Let's throw it out there for discussion. Um, Mike, you want to weigh in on this one?
I would say you did a great job of summarizing the conversations we've had over the last week about this. So thank you for that. Yeah, I guess from just took the last week to really start to break down what we have, the blind spots we have on a couple of these different things. I know there are some big solvables in the timeline that I have an idea of how I want to solve them. So I was just kind of putting myself up for that self-inflicted wound. And then I guess I would just, I know what I know and I know what I don't know. And I tend to not be the most detail driven UI person. So I felt like that was a good team to branch off. And I also definitely do not do much video streaming myself. But I'm going to start landing at a point where I'm going to want to start ingesting the data of these videos and pictures and models in the timeline as I start to push that forward in the near future. And so, um, having people knowledgeable about these other pipelines, I just feel is a better move in the grand scheme of things for a better product. And so,
Mhm.
we're just putting it out there as a call to action. Like, hey, I know Alan already spoke up just a second ago saying he'd be
Yeah,
willing to help with video pipeline. And so I
yeah,
know there are people. I know we all have our implement, as I was saying earlier. We all have our tool that we paint or draw or craft with, and and I would love to start that now that we've got this idea of what sorts of things need to be scaffolded out. We are at this moment where it's like find your gravity well, go towards the direction that you know you can
mhm.
accomplish cool things in, and let's get groovy.
Yeah. I will say there's one caveat to this that Paolo is forbidden from taking on any of these responsibilities. So
Yeah,
hate to see
yeah.
you say, I'll do it. Like you were busy, sir. You were very busy.
I can't find how to raise my hand, so I'm gonna vocally raise my hand. Hi. So I haven't met everybody here. I know, I think about half of you. Um, And so I just want to volunteer simply using the platform that I'm building, which is called Acute. A way to think about what Acute is a CMS for hosting videos of various types of immersive and spatial formats. We use Spatial Jane as an encoder, and we basically build the whole last mile. So the management of metadata and static assets that are associated with each of those videos, as well as templates in Swift to get those videos and render them in the app. So um, the commercial part of the company works with brands and clients such as like Primary, which is a news app that came out in January.
Mhm.
And if you've tried this app, when you download it from the App Store, it's about, I think, 10 megabytes to download because everything comes from the cloud. And so they can add and remove videos, change the assets, and do all that without redeploying to the App Store. And I don't think I have looked into the details of what this project will contain in terms of content deeply enough to fully understand what's needed. But I think it would be very, very easy to host videos onto the CMS. It also contains like a user management system, so you don't need to have like one person upload everything. The people can have their own accounts and contribute individually. You can even separate the roles so that people who contribute the video files that are made with Resolve, for example, and people who contribute the static assets or maybe the copy of the description, things like that can be all different people. And you can manage the publication status on and off. Um, and then it gets integrated. Like the APIs are just like simple REST APIs that use Apple's app test and device check system. So you don't even need an SDK key. It's just like purely by virtue of the bundle ID of the app. It securely like gets the videos so that they are not floating out there in the internet for everybody to poke. And that can be spun up in just a matter of days because uh, usually when we work with clients, we give them like the most basic template, which is a subset of the app that we maintain ourselves, Acute, and uh, and from there, like we just customize, like tweak the UI UX. So obviously, like uh, typically we charge commercial clients, but this is a non-commercial enterprise, and I feel like that there's a chance of like saving a lot of people a lot of time. It
Mhm.
doesn't cost us very much to do, so I think that's an option of a service that we could just provide for free to help you guys if
Yeah,
you're open to it.
that would be amazing. That would
Agreed.
I would save us a lot of infrastructure setup and maintenance, and also I've been kind of dreading I'm always dreading what happens if this really takes off. Um, Short term, we publish it on the App Store. If we get 10,000 people seeing it, that's a huge success. But if Apple Vision Neo comes out next year and sells 20 million units, what happens when 5 million of those people start playing videos? Um, so just to give you some context, Anthony, about the two types of content we have, we're making we're making a documentary called Shared Visions that is a essentially a reality kit scene that combines it plays a timeline from start to finish. It's pausable, it's rewindable, but it is basically playing a timeline of assets in reality kit. Those assets could be 3D models, environments, particle systems, videos of various sizes, shapes, positioned around the user. And the it will be a very video heavy experience, but the videos included in that will be very short clips switching between different people.
Mm, mm,
The interviews that we're writing, like the long question that we're writing out, where say I want to interview Matt Fisher, I'll sit down with him, point a camera at him. I've got 15 or so questions to talk about him. We'll do it all in one shot. We're gonna have that video as a single. Here's a video in the library about Matt. You can go watch the whole thing, but we're going to pull lots of clips out of Matt's video as the editing directing team decides where it makes sense in the shared vision documentary. So we've got the the first category of we really need to get all of this on the device. So we can't necessarily stream that in. And then
Hmm.
we've also got the
Hmm.
content library, which is like if you're interested, here's all these other videos of a longer conversation with each of us. So, and we may want to turn that into kind of an ongoing thing. Um, I know Paolo and I are working on some podcasting stuff. Mike and I are working on some video stuff, but it is very possible that Shared Visions just becomes kind of this is where we talk about new Vision OS apps or community events or things like that. This kind of content library. So
Very cool. Okay, that makes sense. I think that the applicability of what I can contribute here is definitely for like the second part of the content that's dynamic and the library changes over time. I do think that maybe there is some reusability of the open immersive open source project in terms of like the player controls and things like that that could be relevant for the
yeah,
first part. But that sounds like a pretty pretty complicated and pretty unique uh endeavor and a little bit outside my wheelhouse.
yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's complicated, but it's a very fun problem.
It's been an exercise in scope creep. It's been kind of fun to do.
I disagree. I think if you look back at my,
Well, it went pretty. Yeah. The scope creep came before the conversations even happened, but it's been fun. If you don't go for the big shots, it's always easy to cut something that doesn't work, but it's a lot harder to add a cool feature when you've never thought about it from the beginning. So I'd rather aim high.
okay. So if you're willing to help us with the library hosting, for lack of a better term, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
If Alan wants to take lead on kind of implementing that, maybe he can work you and Alan can work together on kind of setting up the uh, basically just like maybe we could just throw a couple test videos in an
Yeah,
account and set up a player and get that working.
yeah, totally. I can absolutely like work with like any like smaller, I guess, subgroup of this. And basically what I can do is walk you through what's working off the shelf, maybe build a little like standalone proof of concept kind of thing to show you the thing in action. And from there it should be pretty easy to discuss, okay, what
Okay.
needs to be different for the ultimate app.
So how about this as a digression? Since you're willing to do this for me, how about we turn this into maybe uh, we get on a Zoom call or a video together. You teach me how to do it, and I can
Yeah,
publish it on Step Into Vision and share it with our audience.
totally. Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, and honestly, scaffolding out just this pipeline of where the assets are hosted, how we pull them in, how we're caching them. We've already got a basic, let's call it version 0.1 of the timeline up on a shared visions Git repository. So we
Okay.
could use that as just like the spot to build, because that's like I'm going to naturally land at the same point in the coming weeks where I'm going to go, all right, now how am I pulling these different formats in and doing these different things?
Okay.
So it makes a lot of sense to just be implementing it into this beta experimental project, anyways.
Sounds
And
great.
yeah, so we could all have a sidebar app nerd dev call at some point in the coming weeks.
Totally.
Perfect.
But yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay. So it sounds like we've got a good plan for the backend slash infrastructure category of stuff. Um, so Anthony is going to contribute some infrastructure and kind of give us a walkthrough of how to use that infrastructure. And Alan, to the extent that you're willing, you can kind of take the lead on implementing that in the app and work with Mike on the. We've already got a very bare bones Xcode project out there that we can all work on. I believe it's publicly accessible.
Yeah, I think I said it public. Yeah,
Yeah.
with the timeline. If you, Anthony, if you want to see an experiment in what we were trying to achieve, basically what's on the Git right now is a immersive 3D video with some reality kit components that move around you and do things but those timelines are actually synced up to the immersive playback
Oh,
so that we
cool.
can have things like you're talking about the Vision Pro and a 3D model of the Vision Pro shows up in front of you, and now you don't have to have it in the immersive scene. That can just be
Mhm.
a backdrop, and the element is being rendered as a USDZ in front of you, very high definition. So,
It's a little bit like the Gucci documentary they had done with like the bag you can play with in the middle of the documentary, things like that.
Mhm.
correct, yeah.
Very cool.
And side note for you, Anthony, Sam from Primary News is also a part of this project.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
Well, that's great. He knows how the platform works.
mhm.
The oh,
Maybe we can get him to interview you for your or vice versa. Yeah, I've been really impressed with Primary News. If the rest of you haven't tried it out yet, it's pretty great.
so we have multiple formats that are playing also as well. So you'll have like spatial, immersive, 180, and they're gonna cycle constantly. So at least my concern is like when from editing to actual implementation is the delay between clips, because
Mm.
if there are delays between clips we have to compensate that with transitions, sound, or
Mhm.
something, and as well as spatial audio. So those are just like, yeah.
Yeah, that's why all the category A stuff. Ideally, we want to get it on device before they start playing. Mike and I also kicked around the idea of like we broke down the linear story into 5 chapters. We wonder if we could if the first chapter or two are small enough to actually bundle with the app and then use Apple hosted background assets to grab the rest to give them, you know, install the app, hit play. You've got 5 minutes of stuff, and hopefully you've got a strong enough internet connection that those background assets are downloading. But that's all part of the feasibility study. So before we talk to you, the front end development, is anyone interested in picking up um, that feasibility slash research project and just kind of working with us to figure out? Uh, you'll have to work with us inside the new step in division org on this because we'll have to use some App Store infrastructure to do this and some test flight builds and stuff like that. But we need someone to kind of um, steward this problem and figure out. We'll just gather a bunch of sample assets, throw them in whatever this container looks like, and figure out what the install process, what the requesting process looks like. You can you can set the assets to be required for the app to launch, or you can set the assets to be kind of ad hoc, accessible as you need them.
Yeah. What we're looking at for like download speed, it's an
Mhm.
important one. How multi files are dealt with, and this also goes to anyone that is watching this video
Yeah.
after the fact. Here, please reach out to Joseph or myself,
Mhm.
um,
That'd
and
be cool.
yeah,
Jeffrey's asking about the repo. Let me grab that.
I'm nearly certain I said it public. Hopefully, I said it public.
It is on our mostly unused Step into Vision GitHub org. We have a few things there.
And it is definitely a proof of concept. Like it doesn't scrub very well or do some of those things. It was more a immersive video with reality kit feasibility study initially of just like can we do these things? Can we pause these set secondary timelines in reality kit and stop these actions on models while also stopping a video that's playing, regardless of what version of AV player is happening. So
Yeah, I mostly just wanted to see the project structure and see kind of how far you guys have gotten with it.
Not far at all.
That's good. Yeah.
Everything
a
is
lot of discussions.
yeah, everything is up for like total tear down and redo. Like it's all just like prototype stuff. It just is
Yeah.
the stage stuff. We're only using that project because Mike already used up the GitHub namespace by calling it shared visions. Jerk.
Well, the project was already called Shared Visions on my computer, so it just is natural evolution of things.
Mhm. Yeah, we can. I know Jimmy's not here today, but we might be able to nerd snipe him into this. Uh, his his a tendency to, if you tell him, yeah, here's this really complicated thing I don't know how to figure out. He can figure it out.
Hmm.
He's real good at that. He's figured out SharePlay and has helped like a dozen people figure out SharePlay, which is like that's kind of Vision OS hard mode as far as I'm concerned. Tim?
Yeah, so you're looking for someone to take away the research on the asset downloads and
Hmm.
using Apple's storage thing
Hmm.
and other formats. I can probably take a stab at that.
Okay, that'd be awesome.
Because I've done a number of apps with video and stuff like that, and I haven't actually done the Apple uh, repo yet part, but I can take a look at that if you want.
Awesome. Yeah,
That'd be
it's
great.
it's new stuff this year. The Apple hosted background assets. They had
Yeah,
a WWDC keynote session about it.
yeah, I'm sure we got something on Codico about it. I can probably pick somebody's brain about that as well.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for stepping up for that. So that brings us to the front end development. We need someone to kind of lead the front end development team. Be a lot of Swift UI development, a little bit of Reality Kit stuff. Probably no AR kit in this app, but I would say it's going to be very heavy on the Swift UI side. So handling app state, data structures, views, app scenes, transitions, animations, navigation, stuff like that. And also kind of almost working as uh, kind of thinking of Oliver and his team as like the client for this part of the project, letting them kind of guide the direction of what we make. Um, Obviously, it's a community project, so we all get the way in, but letting that design team and those pros uh, hand us kind of a well thought out structure of what to build, and then we can implement it.
We're not that scary, are we, Andrew? Mel?
No, I think it's a good opportunity to learn from you folks because I work pretty much by myself, and uh, I've got a pretty good sense of how to make a UI, but I don't really ever slow down all the way to actually like to storyboard everything out in Figma like I should. I tend to just immediately start prototyping in code and just like probably not the best way to work, but
I think Apple designed Swift UI exactly so that people could do that, so it's maybe not the worst.
yeah, it's so easy compared to just a couple years ago, particularly for other VR and AR development I was doing. It was just like you had to basically sketch everything out on paper and hang it on the wall around you to reason through everything. And now just the tools are so good. Just
So I'm pretty good at taking an application from wireframes or comps or sometimes just a concept and doing a lot of the UX stuff myself.
mhm.
But I'm also good at working with a creative team that will deliver that stuff to me. I just may annoy them with the oh, but what about this? And they're like, yeah, okay,
Oh yeah,
because I have that experience. So
yeah,
that's why I was going to be on your team as well, Oliver, but I was like, I'm kind of in that middle space.
yeah.
Um, I'm hesitant about volunteering to lead it, but I want to jump in and start building like set up the framework and get everything ready for other people to be able to use. So
Yeah.
I am available. I haven't been able to make the calls. Now my schedule is free, but I'm also going to be going on taking a trip to Korea for a couple of weeks. So that's why I was like, I don't want to commit to anything where you need me on a weekly basis, but I do have time. I can crank out a lot of stuff.
Okay.
So I can be the support person for the person who is leading it.
Okay.
Easy.
Cool.
We're a couple of weeks away anyway, Jeffrey.
See, there you
So
go. Yeah.
It may
when are you back
be
from Korea?
Probably in a couple of weeks.
Oh, right. Okay. Yep. Cool.
Yeah.
so it may make sense for Jeffrey and I to kind of team up. I can kind of project manager it in terms of organizing and making sure that all the other teams have what they need and set priorities, and you can handle as much of the implementation and push back with the UX team, particularly if you're working with that team closely. That would be awesome. So
That's perfect.
awesome.
Yeah.
So I've got skills in Swift UI front end stuff, so I can provide a bit of a bridge between design and development for that.
Awesome.
So
Brilliant.
You want to?
Yeah.
yeah.
Great. Well, I think we got a plan.
It's all coming together.
Mm-hmm. And then Matt Fisher is going to do everything else. He's cranking out 2 apps a week. He's obviously capable.
Yeah, deal. I got plenty of time. I was interested in the agreements and contracts because I was recently listening to a podcast about intellectual property and the virtual and immersive world that we're in and how things are changing. And I've got a lawyer buddy that I can throw some stuff and ask the new Claude law skill that what it thinks on this stuff and get it to do some research. So I'll take a stab at that, but I'm probably not the best person to be doing contracts, but I can do some research for us.
Awesome. Yeah. At least tell us what kind of contracts we need. I think Paolo mentioned
Okay.
a contributor's license, something like that.
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember. It'd probably be in the chat. So we would do CCY Creative Commons on some shots, but on themselves, we give them contributor's license, so we don't fully take away their selves, their looks, their autonomy in full 100%, but instead we license their look, their rights only for that specific, well, shared visions and like a strict guidelines of, so people can't just throw them in an AI feed and learn about everything about them. So those are the things we have to like navigate which parts are available and which parts are not.
Yeah. Probably making it clear that we're getting permission, like, can we use these clips in our social media and marketing stuff for the project?
Yeah.
Things like that.
Because we now have full scans of us, and then someone can just like, I'm gonna go and figure out what this person's doing. Let me go scan him, 3D recreate him, and I can like create an AI. So we want that.
I recorded voice scripts of myself and put them on GitHub 3 years ago. That was smart, right?
Yeah.
I've got 200 or 300 hours of podcasts out there, so make sure you need to impersonate me.
Yeah, we've been training all the models for years.
Yeah, the
Probably.
Joe bot's coming. Watch out.
The what bot?
The Joe bot.
Joe bot. Okay.
Don't ask.
Too late.
Yeah.
All right. So it sounds like we got the main topic figured out in record time for us.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to dive deeper into any of these tech topics? We could go into the timeline specifics if we want to bounce ideas for Mike, or we can talk about, actually, this may be a good topic right now since we've got so many people here. We're thinking about some kind of little temporary web app that we can use to kind of manage the submissions for the project. So think of like we're working on an interview with Tim, and maybe Jeffrey's going to interview Tim remotely. We can generate a code and then give that interview a name. Here's who conducted the interview. Here's who is doing the interview, and kind of here's the questions for the interviewer. Here's a kind of a to-do list of things to do, like B-roll shots to get. We could probably use that submission process as where we handle any of these licensing and agreements and stuff like that. So it was really just, I think it's a relatively simple thing to throw together from a development standpoint. It's more of just like, what do we need that to do? And particularly the idea is one place where people can fill out all this stuff and upload all their videos. They may have 5 or 10 videos, a couple gigs worth of stuff, and then we need a place where our editing team can go and grab all that footage and edit the individual files as well as extract clips of that for the timeline. So does anything like this already exist that we should just go get for a couple of months? The only thing I saw a
Making
couple
the
like
forms and everything is easy.
Yeah.
The part that you kind of hand waved past was the upload gigabytes of content. And I was like, that's what needs to be answered. So If you have
Yes.
that, I can answer everything else.
Mhm. Yeah, so we were probably thinking of just like an R2 bucket uh, to upload all this stuff.
I use S3 for a couple of apps that I have that sort do video and audio, and it's relatively inexpensive. It ends up costing me a couple of bucks a month.
Mhm.
So
So we just need basically some web forms that can use a file uploader to drop these things into a bucket, and then some kind of dashboard that breaks all the different interviews into a list where the editing team could say, I need to find all the files for Mike Bundy. Here's Mike Bundy's interview. Here's the metadata that was added. Here's the files. Download those, throw them in DaVinci on his
So
new Ultra.
I do have something that I'm curious about. So when I upload stuff to Spatial Gen for a lot of the stuff that I'm doing with Lalo, whenever I reach a certain threshold of file size, like 30 gigs, 50 gigs, or 80 gigs, the web browser times out, and they had to build a separate app for that. And even if I submit batches of files that would total to like 10 gigs, it would time out on the web browser. I don't know if anybody knows how does that timeout work? How does the upload work? Does it break? Is this something we should think about now, that we should just make some simple uploader with a form for folks that are just like, here are all my recordings on the Vision Pro, put them on Finder, and then upload them, and they're like 30 gigs of stuff. So
Okay. The Shared Visions Mac OS app.
I had to build something similar for large video uploads. The key, especially like working with Amazon S3, the key is to do multi-part uploads with acceleration. So you can find um, sample code on the AWS website on how to put that together. And it's such a common use case that like Claude can take you to uh, like the finish line, starting from their samples that tend to be a little bit older. So it's absolutely possible. I think that something to keep in mind is that yeah, if the goal is to upload, for example, Blackmagic RAW files, uh,
There will be some
Yeah,
of them, but not
16
a
gigs
lot.
per 30 seconds or whatever it is.
or like terabytes. An old like rule of thumb is that 1 terabyte is 24 hours. So, um, uh,
FedEx may be faster.
yeah, precisely. Um, yeah, like what are the biggest things that you expect to be uploaded? Is it literally going to be raw footage?
So I think most of our actual interview footage will be like spatial capture on iPhone, maybe
Okay.
some persona capture, maybe a little bit of 180 or 360 videos, but not necessarily Apple immersive quality. I think we're kind of thinking of saving the Apple immersive stuff for any kind of key moments if we can get a group of people together um, and do kind of a group shoot. But we don't necessarily want to conduct a 15-minute interview in Apple immersive video. That's going to be huge, uneditable, unmanageable, unwatchable, honestly. Um, so I think it's kind of weird because I we want to get this project at least somewhat done before WWDC, but WWDC also presents us our best opportunity to capture footage together. So we may want
Mhm.
to have like a prototype or rough draft for WWDC, and then use it as an opportunity to pull out one of these Blackmagic cameras and get a group video together, get some spatial photos, things like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, gosh, so if it's mostly video assets, um, like the platform can do that. Right now, it doesn't give you an option to download the original asset that you uploaded, but that would be something like relatively trivial to add. Like the main goal of the platform is to turn those assets into streams, but if here like the use case is more we want to upload those assets so that's an editor can centralize them and cut them together. I think that that's something that could be done as well.
Yeah, this is mostly just about getting all the assets to the editor team, which we're hoping to get the editing team set up on a Mac Studio or something equivalently powerful with a ton of storage attached. where the editors can each remote into that machine and edit on it as needed.
Yeah. Do you think you're gonna need to have like use a similar system to have like the upload and download of 3D assets?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's why I was thinking of a standalone web app for this.
Yeah, makes sense.
We'll need like profile images, 3D assets from people's apps and games, probably a little bit of documentation of like write a bio for yourself
Yeah.
or for the interview to do it, social media links, website, product links, app store links, like all that type of stuff that we want to show up in the app.
How about
Relog and
Drive?
edit it after the fact.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, how about a Google Drive then? Because I think that like if you have an LLC and you sign up, for example, like one of those credit cards or like debit cards like Mercury or like Brex or one of those, they give you access to like free credits or like perks that, for example, can give you Google Workspace for free for a certain amount of time. So there are ways to get for free like a lot of that infrastructure, and you just need to do access control
Yeah.
for people
We
to upload.
we do have 2 terabytes of Google Drive storage to use.
Uh-huh.
The only pushback I got from that was like it counts against our storage and against yours as the uploader.
Oh, okay.
So it kind of double counts that way. And we also have a lot of users, not a lot. We've got uh, enough folks in China and regions who can't use Google services.
Cool.
And we would still need to provide them an alternate means to contribute their stuff.
Gotcha.
It's the weird stuff that goes with a global community.
Mm-hmm.
And you might want to consider a file naming convention for these files.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, we'll need to kind of our plan, this my barely defined plan is with the interview questions, doing some kind of early trials of these in our core group and kind of working out the workflow and documenting that into kind of a repeatable process that we can hand off to, oh, Sam's gonna do 5 interviews. Here's the 5 people you're paired up with. Here's a couple of checklists, and here's where to go upload everything. All right. Yeah, I think we covered everything today.
In record time.
What else do we have to talk about? We want to dive more into any one of these topics or something else?
I mean, I can give my base shot of where we're heading with the timeline and take any constructive criticism. That'd be sweet.
Let me just say,
So
John, please
basically,
start watching the video from here.
yeah, John.
Just so we
Yeah,
can find
you're
the
already on
transcript.
the app dev. You're on the timeline team. I don't know if you knew that, John, but I already put you on a list. So the base idea here, there's a little bit of mystery still, but we have a pretty good idea of what sort of pie we're going to try to bake. And so what we're going to do is we're making one master of truth timeline. I have yet to really fully hash out how I want to do the metadata of the timeline, which is really the main mystery of how we're going to do it. Because you can hard code a bunch of things, right? But we want to have this malleable thing that can be updated or can have a thing fixed and not have to just go dig into source code and bump one timeline because you have this giant script of timelines of when they tee off, and now you have to go edit 47 more because you moved everything 2 seconds. Like, that just doesn't seem like a very intelligent way to design something like this. So the idea is to really make a multiplayer reality kit experience where we're going to take about a plus to minus 1.5x by about a -2z, and then figure out what we want to grab in the y, right? So we're gonna capture that forward-facing moment in time when the documentary starts, and we're gonna identify a coordinate space, and then we're going to have instantiatable players where we can give it a X, Y, and a Z in that coordinate space, and then billboard it for when it initially loads. So we're not going to do like a perma billboard. We're going to do a billboard when it loads, so that if you did move your head a little bit, you would get this effect of seeing this flat video over potentially something behind it, and it's not really locked into your perspective. And yeah, and then build some sort of preloader system that is yet to be determined, because we need to figure out how the background assets really package up, and what that whole process looks like. It'd be nice to see what that file structure looks like. And we're going to put together this time. The timeline will realistically probably be an audio track. I'm not 100% sure that that's how we want to do it, but it seems to me like the lowest common denominator of a thing that I know will run for the entire 26, 37, 42, 15 minutes, whatever it is, right? And then really figuring out how we embed some sort of metadata into a, giant scripted JSON file or something, something that we can be ingesting the moment this video starts and the sound starts, where we can say, play an immersive video on the orb, right? Now cut that video. Now we go to black on the orb, or we go to mixed reality, could show the pass through for a second and have some element show up, and really take a granular control of just 2 or 3 of the major effects that you can accomplish on the device, right? Like going from an immersive reality to your mixed reality, being able to load multiple videos all playing at the same time in different spaces at different depths, possibly even moving or slightly moving, because you don't want to get too crazy. And most of that has already been figured out. My games have used players for video assets to do different things. I already know how to kind of accomplish that. I know how to get those into the spaces we want to get them into. I know you can have multiple video players running at the same time. There are little caveats like your reality kit's your video player will clamp the reality kit's frame rate to whatever frame rate the video is at. So there's some minor things we'll have to achieve there if we want to have fast motion in certain things, while also playing a cropped video in front of you. If that's coming in at 30 frames a second, you're going to expect everything behind it to also run at 30 frames a second, unless we bring it into Final Cut or something and upsample the frame rate, which is what I actually do on my game stuff. Because if you're using hand gestures, it's very noticeable. You start playing a video and it goes.
Yeah, it's also just a matter of comfort. Low frame rates
right.
keep a lot of people sick. So if we are
So
showing
yeah,
30 frames a second video, then we need to not be showing an environment that's only rendering at 30 frames a second.
Right. But yeah, the explorations on all of these different effects have kind of been done now. The main real solve we have is like, what is the smartest way for someone like myself and Paolo specifically, who's leading the editing team, to be making these videos, these super cuts of videos that we're going to then go into and crop portions out and turn into micro clips, right? That we're going to do things with. Or are we doing one major timeline we only load up into RAM once, and I'm instantiating multiple video players, but just at different playheads, because that could be performant enough to also pull off where we only have one singular timeline. That is sort of where we are at right now, is like what would be the best practices to implement something like this. And Paolo's got his hand up.
So
Yes.
I have a proposal. So this is I've done this in a phase of prototyping VR games where we would get a 360 camera, act out the scenes, and then we would put them in Unity and overlay them. So we had like a timeline of that performance. So what I was thinking was, we have a full timeline of the whole documentary, maybe 27 minutes of it. It has the clips all, I'll probably just like float them around, have them in VR, and then that becomes sort of your guide. And then from there, we export all those individual clips for you to create as entities. So I'm gonna
Right.
make probably make a 180 major canvas, and that'll be like your guide, and then you'll
That's
know where
great.
to put them if that works. I don't know if
Uh, that sounds like an incredible plan.
it
I mean, that means you have to cut it up twice, but
yeah yeah
it
because
will definitely show in the end product. You know, it it's a lot easier for me to just go put a 180 camera on and watch a rough cut, essentially. You know,
and
a first render from Pixar there,
we can
and say, oh, okay, that's what I'm supposed to make. Got it. You know.
we can also chunk them up. So when we do divide them by chapters, not physical chapters with the text chapters, but like segments of themes, we can edit those themes. So this theme will be like 15 minutes long. It'll be 20. It'll adjust. So if one segment's finished, that 15-minute, I can send that to you, and you can like time everything, and then we have that next 25-minute that'll just adjust and dynamically fit. So that way the app team and the UX team can start working on that 15 segment, and then we do the next segment, and then we can assemble that whole 27-minute video, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I was
It
thinking,
does.
to make sure that everyone's still working, because I know we'll have a lot of reviews. It won't help to have everyone give comments on the whole 27-minute timeline when we can like have a comment of like, this segment's like, this is a good segment, we'll ship that out, because it's just about the launch, something like that.
Do you have expectations that people will go backwards in time
Mhm. Yeah.
a
Yes.
No,
lot?
I've been thinking about that problem as well. We probably want
We
some kind of forward and back. I don't think it needs to be a hard-coded seek. I think because it's hard to know based on a time code if you are if you're using a time code as a thing of like this time code starts this entity, but there could already
mm-hmm.
be other entities in the scene, and this time code may not know about those. So
Yep.
I think it probably makes more sense to have kind of checkpoints, hard-coded checkpoints, where we have some metadata in the time code that says we can completely faithfully recreate the state here. We know which particle systems to enable and which lights to turn on, um,
Yes.
things like that. So it
Yeah,
doesn't
I was
really.
definitely looking at it as like a sub chapter sort of
Mhm.
fast forward rewind where we know there are safe moments in time to instantiate this new 45-second chunk, minute chunk. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
it would be very hard to scrub back through for AV players going with a background asset and particle effects and some moving thing.
Well, loading
I mean,
loading everything up that we had thrown away, and then now,
yes,
oh shoot, recreate that and stuff.
yes,
Or yeah,
Yeah,
if it's like in mid position of a movement and then they drag it back, it's like, how do you know if it's, yeah, that's true.
yep.
So I would say some homework for Mike is
Oliver.
um, Oliver. Oh, he's got to go. Some homework for Mike. Take a look at the timeline in Unreal Engine or Unity. I know you've got Unreal Engine loaded somewhere. They have a built-in cinematic timeline that is kind of what I was thinking when forming this project. I use the one in Unity a lot, I use the one in Unreal Engine a little bit, and I built my own when I was using Play Canvas. They didn't have a timeline built in. So I built a good enough solution as basically a giant JSON blob. And the way that I did it was kind of treating the JSON as the source of truth. I would start a timer and have a bunch of time codes in that JSON, and those time codes would play events and play canvas. Those events would have be each associated with an entity in the scene,
Mm-hmm.
and basically,
Honestly, that I was never sold on the sound being the source of truth. It was only just due to me thinking about what exists forever, right? But if we were to pull it into its own timeline asset in whatever format we end up landing in, we do get some side effects of, you know, those video files are going to play spatially like in the spots they are, right? We don't have to go reverse engineer that, you know, 75% left, 25% right moment of audio over here.
Mhm.
So
So
I, you
the
know,
way that I'd cobbled it together, I'm not sure if this one is useful or not because it's like 5 years old and I didn't really know what I was doing. But the way that I cobbled it together was it was a timeline that could each of these times could perform an action, basically a JavaScript event, or they were observables in Play Canvas. It could execute an event. That event would do something on an entity in the scene. One of those events would be stop playback or call another timeline. So I could carve up my game into executable timelines that this wasn't playing and pausing the frame rate loop. This was just playing and pausing the entity's doing something. So I use
Yes.
this as a cue of like, there's a bunch of monsters coming at you. You hit transition A, and all of those monsters switch guns. You hit transition B, they go back to their original guns. I can undo those and switch them again. Or I can enable object pooling, turn off object pooling, things like that. Um, so yeah, but I was kind of combining that with the other systems in the game engine. So yeah,
Hmm.
but I don't know if the event system is right for this per se. I think it's much more of a data structure with some checkpoints that
Mm-hmm.
knows this is the state of the documentary at this point, and if we go back to this point, I know from here I got to do all of these things: load these assets, start these players, play these animations.
Yeah, it definitely makes for an easy,
Yeah,
kill everything that's visible, and we're starting here
yeah.
moments in time. Um, so I'm into it for sure.
Matt,
Um,
you get your hand up.
Yeah, the Bjork app had a good way of skipping to different sections. You'd look at your hand and a little map would pop up, and
Mhm.
that was your way to navigate through these different sections of video. So that's what I was kind of thinking. And have we talked to the D-Day guys, like on how they were able to move through their different sections of different types of media? They
I
might
believe
have
they
some
did
tips.
everything. I believe they used Unity for theirs. So I'm thinking they use a combination of video and the cinematic timeline in Unity, but I haven't talked to them specifically. But their project is one of the things that contributed to this idea getting out of my head in August. I wanted to build something kind of that switches between media formats like that. Yeah, this would be relatively trivial to do in Unity, but we'd have to use Unity. And this is a Vision OS community, not a Unity community,
pass.
right? I also don't know how I've used the Unity timeline for quick things. I've never used it on something 27 or 40 minutes long. I have no idea how reliable it is at that length. You probably have to break it into smaller scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're interested, Mike, I can show you that Play Canvas project sometime.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I'm taking all calls on ideas here because I don't. This is one of those ultimate developer conundrums where you're like, well, there's like 14 ways you could do this, like, but
mhm.
how do we do it?
Yeah,
And that's why I've purposefully not sprinted very hard on this specific thing and really just tested feasibility of ideas. And it's,
I do
I think,
I do like the idea of the discrete chunks of chapters or whatever we call sections,
mhm,
so that we can get the timing right within that section. We can hand those off to multiple people to edit them, um, and it's really just the transitions between those that have to be figured out at the end. So if we
right.
had 40 minutes of documentary and we carved it up into 10 sections, maybe not exactly 5-minute increments, but I think that would be easy to just throw together a visual timeline on screen, drag stuff around, have little previews of things, either on the Mac
Hmm.
or set.
I love a Palmer wrist menu too. I'm not scared.
Hmm. Yeah, Alan mentioned the idea of building a timeline asset. Yeah, we definitely. I think this is if we build this right, I think this is something that a lot of other people could use to make stories,
Hmm.
even if they don't have the same constraint of multiple different types of media. I think it could still be useful if you've got, um, you know, maybe you've got 10 minutes of spatial video and you want to mix in some 3D assets and images off to the side to kind of bring in contextually. They could use this player for that. I think it'd be great.
I'm gonna send you a footage, Mike, of my interview in Blackmagic, but I'm gonna edit it in a way where I'll give you a spatial video version of it, a Blackmagic version of it, and then you can transition at a certain point where
Okay.
you go like clap, and then you
I
just
would love that. I would love that. Yeah. Yeah, we're
You have to say
definitely at that phase
immersive.
of
yeah.
uh-huh. No, that's great. Those sorts of things are very valuable at this exact moment, you know. I'm
Cool.
just downloading Blackmagic footage off of Blackmagic's like demo. It's
Mm.
got side by sides going through the desert in our, demo project. It's not
I
exactly
won't
on brand.
I won't noise correct them because those things take hours.
Yeah.
So
I'll clear 700 gigs off of the studio so I can download it.
yeah. Gosh, noise correction's a pain.
Matt liked that one.
Anthony's like just nodding, like, yeah, I know. It sucks. I hate it so much.
You
One
did
of my
kind of break my.
customers bought an M3 Ultra, and after that, like, well, you told me to buy this machine. It was like 8 grand, and it processes 1 frame per second. Is that normal? And I was like, I don't know. I don't have one. And and uh and I contacted my contact at Apple who was like, let me check on that. And then a couple of days later, yeah, it's normal.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
I said the same thing on the immersive meeting. I said, hey, this is how long it's taking me, like 15, 18 hours. And then they were like, yep, that's normal. I'm like, I'm waiting for a M5 Studio for,
Mhm.
for this.
So there's been
One frame a second.
this constant complaint of the community, like, where's all the immersive footage? Bring us more immersive footage. Now we know where it is. It's still rendering. It's
Yeah.
all still.
Hmm.
The worst is like when you spend like 3 days compiling the thing and you watch it and it's kind of shit. And you're like, well, I'm not gonna put my name on that.
Yeah.
Flashbacks to POV Ray, getting it to render one line at a time, waking up at 3 a.m. Oh man, I messed something up. Okay, re-render, go back to bed. Yeah.
Someone should tell the bloggers to do a benchmark on processing immersive video because that seems to be the only thing that that you can compare like an M1 Max to an M3 Ultra. Like everyone's throwing the Blender classroom scene. I'm like, yeah, it's like 3 seconds, but I really care about noise correction on DaVinci with 8K.
Yeah. That would be an interesting. It's reproducible. Just grab the free DaVinci, grab the sample footage off of the Blackmagic site, and just write a little like checklist of benchmarks to try. Interesting. Cool. I'm gonna stop the recording there.